righty, Dr. Richmond, you going to call us to order?
Sure. Good morning. Welcome everyone to the Arkansas State Board of Pharmacy. Today is December the 10th and it's 9:04 a.m. Dr. Kirtley, I'll turn it over to you.
Absolutely. We're going to kick off. I think our first person this morning is Miss Angela Parker, who you have under tab number 3. Miss Parker, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing just fine.
Doing well. I'm going to tell you, I'm John Kirtley. I'm the director of the Board of Pharmacy, and I'm going to explain to you real quick a couple things about who all you're talking to this morning and a couple things about our procedure. On this side of the table, we're staff members here at the board, myself, Dr. Brendan McCrady, who's our assistant director, Miss Ashley Vales, who's our legal counsel. And I have 3 of our pharmacy board members who are decision makers here today, Dr. Clint Boone on the end, Dr. Brian Jolly, and Dr. Rodney Richmond. In this process, you have an application to be a pharmacy technician, which the board members are just now seeing your application. And in that, you did tell us that something might come back. So you did let us know kind of ahead of time that something could pop up. With this, in a moment, I'll turn it over to Ms. Vale. She'll give them a brief overview of what we found on your application, and then they'll have some questions probably for you, and you'll get a chance to speak with them. At some point, they're going to have a suggestion for some decision. It could be to approve your application, to deny your application, to table it for reconsideration at some other point, or to say they would consider it under some circumstance. But most importantly, whatever they come up with, you can either agree or disagree with. If you agree with what they come up with, then we go forth with whatever they've instructed staff to do. If you disagree, you kind of have 2 choices. One is to say, never mind, forget this, walk away. The other would be to request a full hearing before the board at a future date. This is 3 of our 8 board members. It's a fairly informal process, even though I understand it's stressful anytime you come before a board like this. But the full hearing would be all 8 members, a hearing officer, a court reporter. We swear everybody in. It's much more structurally similar to going to court. So I asked, do you know why you're here today?
I do.
What questions do you have about how this works?
Well, I know I need to explain this. I don't have any questions. I think I'm pretty much.
Okay. Well, if at any point during this you do have a question or need some clarification about what's going on, by all means, get our attention, wave your hands at us. We'll be happy to try to help answer any questions that you have to be sure you understand what's going on. Okay. We'll turn it over to Ms. Vales.
Good morning. We brought Ms. Parker in for an informal conference today based on her criminal history. If you look at her application, she did disclose, yes, she answered yes to the question about basically having been found to possess controlled substances. In this case, it would be in a criminal proceeding. The other questions she answered no to, but we still consider that a disclosure. And the incident that came up was from August 24, 2013. She was arrested for possession of a controlled substance, marijuana, Class A misdemeanor. According to her statement, she was in a car that was pulled over. Her date asked her to put a baggie of marijuana in her purse because he was on parole. And she did that, and she didn't tell the officers that it was actually her date's marijuana. She went to court and was sentenced to pay fines and court costs. She didn't pay those off like she was supposed to. In March of 2015, she was charged with contempt for failing to pay those fines. But then on February 25th, 2006, she paid them all in full. But the charge remains on her record because of that.
Ms. Parker, do you want to share with us what happened in your own words? Yes.
Police got to the car. I was young, I really wasn't. My personal record. Officers, assuming it was his, they told me multiple times.
All right. They told me multiple of times to just state that it was his marijuana, but I didn't, which led to me going to jail that night. It's something that I deeply regret. I can hear my dad playing in the back of my head saying, your criminal record, your record is clean. I could just hear my dad. I wasn't really aware of the lifelong effect of me allowing him to talk me into that. I should have told him no, but I did it. It was, from what the paperwork said, I don't even think it was a joint of marijuana. I went to jail. I probably sat there an hour, 30 minutes. It took me a while to pay the fines. I didn't have the money to pay the fines, but when I did get the money to pay the fine, I paid the fine in full. I didn't have any drug class or anything like that to report to. And I haven't been in any type of trouble like that since 2013.
So how is it that the police officer came to search?
I'm guessing, you mean what prompted him to search the car?
Right.
The gentleman, I believe he was smoking marijuana. And so when the officer approached the car and he let the window down, if my memory serves correct, the officer could smell it,
Right.
which led to him searching the vehicle.
All right, so in this case, now, to use your words, when I asked, tell us in your own words, you said on this particular instance, so does that suggest there was another incident?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, that was just my wording.
All right. So in this case, the marijuana belonged to the gentleman.
Yes, sir.
Now, have you ever used marijuana?
Yes, sir, I have.
When was the last time?
This last time was 2016. I'll say
So
2016.
8 years ago.
Yes, sir.
You have a medical marijuana card?
No, sir, not at the moment, no. I don't feel like I need it. Yeah.
The reason I think Dr. Richmond was asking around the card is you can't have a card and work in safety sensitive positions, and pharmacy is
But
included.
you said you can't?
Cannot.
Okay, yeah, okay. That's fine.
So what is your interest in? Why do you want to practice? Why do you want to get into pharmacy and be a pharmacy technician?
It's been something I've thought about maybe for 8 years or longer. I really just like the environment. I like that they help people. I'm a people's person. My grandmother is someone that took high blood pressure pills over the years. So I've always been the one to go into the pharmacy and get her medicine for her. The people in there were always kind, friendly. I feel like it's an important field. You know, they deal with an important side of keeping people healthy. And I just love the field. I don't have a real clear explanation why I love it, but anything that helps the human race, I think is a great job to be a part of.
Okay.
Dr. Boone, do you have any other?
I'd make a motion, we approve permit.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Ms. Parker, that's if you want to agree with them, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming in this morning. We are going to get them to sign off and we
Okay.
will get you processed.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Y'all have a great day. Thank you. Happy holidays. Okey doke.
You guys would laugh that went to medical board last week and there was an entire discussion about how to set up the timing of meetings and should we do a cattle call? Should we still line it up like this? And I almost sat there laughing because it is quite obvious that we are not the only board that has tried different approaches to see what works best. And no matter what, there's always a snafu in the process, like nobody else has showed up for 9 o'clock, right? Ashley? All right, so I would move then. I did bring some other work for us. If you guys want to look at this list, realizing that this is an official board meeting because we have multiple board members. We had 2 more requests for Act 575 that I took the kind of the procedures that the committee had come up with originally and applied those to this list of drugs. So either by cost or by classification, anything that is white or has no highlighting at all would be drugs that would be denied by our process and procedures. Anything that is yellow has previously been approved, and anything that is blue would generally be a new drug that we would consider to be approvable. There was one drug at the top of the second page that's green, and this is a little bit lighter colored on our on computer than it is on this printing. But we had one drug that had been approved, but then was on another list as not being approved, but it is that specific fentanyl product that is quite expensive. And when I presented this to medical board, I said it would be approvable based on the cost alone, even though for most opioids that are immediate need, we did not approve those for that use. So this is more of a drug that they would only want to cover and then have a PA for specific procedures, but there's many others that would be approved without or would not require a PA.
Is there any, can there be any restriction on MMB or else?
So what we put is on Act 575 is whether or not there can be a prior authorization on the drug. I personally believe that that is separate than like day supply restrictions on drugs. Just like it doesn't say that you can't limit it to a 30-day supply of anything. You know, most insurance companies will limit to either a 30 or 90-day supply. That to me is different than prior authorization criteria. So I think some of them will have either an MME or a day supply issue, much like they do now. Because it's not with prior authorization, we'll pay for more than that. It's a procedural, like we only cover, you know, X MMEs is what the coverage is. Just like they'll only cover a certain dose of lisinopril. You know, you can't get 300 milligrams a day. That's not going to work. We'll cover 10 milligrams.
I think that's good. My concern is we don't want to open it up to where there's not any oversight on it. So I think there's some concern there on, can they still do an MMD?
Yeah.
Base requirement.
Yeah, I think that's separate. If there's any conflict in that, it's not going to be with pharmacy board or medical board. It's going to be with insurance department as they have to deal with it. Any questions you guys have on any of them?
Yes, Mr. Action.
I'm asking if you guys will vote to approve this list as presented, which was approved by medical board last week, but would apply the criteria we had established previously.
Allowing for a PA?
For the ones that are highlighted in blue. Yeah.
Yellow.
Yeah, the yellow's already been approved once.
Oh, okay.
And the greens has been approved once. I'm just pointing it out because it was on an approved list and a denied list, but it has been approved.
Does this require full board consideration?
Well, are we having an emergency hearing tomorrow? I think we're going to have an emergency hearing. If you guys want to wait for the full board, we could do that, which is fine.
Part of it is, honestly, I can't read it. Between the color and the.
Yeah.
I got trifocals and I still can't read
When
it.
it printed off, it's much harder to read. I'll get you well, I can send you an electronic copy to look at, and we can get during emergency hearing, the board to vote on it then. But that way, if there are any questions or anything, we can try to address them before. You can read the yellow, right?
Yeah, I read the yellow, that's fine.
Well, and I had to shrink it where it would kind of sort of fit, and I'm like, man, that font got small real quick. But the blue is much harder to read than it is on screen.
I've
I get
noticed
that for you.
even with highlighters, I have had, sometimes the yellow highlighters don't color very well.
Don't help.
So I've had to go to pink.
Well, and I mean, the issue we have oftentimes is what it looks like on my screen is not what it looks like.
Not the
Through the
color that comes
copier.
off the printer, yeah.
John, for the record, I can delete these ones.
Okay.
Those look to be all high cost branded drugs. That's the main, I've seen some.
Well, I mean, one of them is, one of our $3 million treatments. Gene therapy.
Yeah.
And then the ones that are not incredibly expensive fit into areas such as, antineoplastics or hematologic agents that, when we discussed before, even our, physician colleagues were like, you need to make sure that this is being used correctly. So from the insurance side, they were fine with that. I can find this.
Well, if it goes to a board, that's fine. I don't need an electronic copy. I'm good with just as presented.
Yeah, it doesn't want to pull up on my laptop, so I'll have to pull it up from my desktop. What else you guys got? I shared with Rodney, we know 2 applicants for the rural loan fund that we are planning to talk to on Thursday at Harding after law test. We will schedule with UAMS this spring for theirs. Law review was last week, which I think went well, but then again, it's me having to talk for an hour and a half for what I know is like the most boring lecture ever. So we'll be giving tests Thursday and Friday of this week. So we should have results on both those next week. We have one person that needs to take a 3rd round test that was scheduled to be here tomorrow, but has issued or has sent us an email to request if they might be able to appear via Zoom. Sounds like they have a family member that may be hospitalized at this time, so they don't want to miss the meeting, but it's a 6-hour round trip for them to come down. So they were asking if they could appear via Zoom. It'd be tomorrow afternoon. If that's okay with you guys, we'll let them know. Okay. Let them know that that's fine. They have been to office twice. In some ways, the hope is if you come down here and you think you're ready to go, you could also step in the other room and take the test while you're here. And that way, if anything happened, you'd be here to talk to the board members, before you leave for the day, but not going to work this time.
I'll have to put them off till February.
Yeah.
I assume that's for reciprocity.
Yes. But living here now. We have a couple of other projects just in the mix for you guys to know. I mean, full board will hear more about this in February. We did have our 2 proposed rules to do a couple things, which are reestablish tech ratio and intern ratio to be a joint ratio, as well as change some of the criteria for reinstatement of licensure where it didn't have a potential CE cap or supervision cap. So if someone had been out for decades or a decade, they would basically, come before the board for a reentry to practice plan. I've seen other professions and other states do that, which I think in some ways might be a better approach than just saying, well, as long as you're supervised for a few weeks and give us some back CE, you're good to go. I think we have on the staff side seen some requests for reinstatements that we found out that, people were in, a guardianship situation where either the court said that they were unable to make adult decisions or they had other potential situations that the board would most likely want to hear about.
I know we've got CE next year, but is there any y'all ever looked at doing a self-reporting option or being short on CE?
We have that. So if they.
Still get the fine though if they if they self-report?
It is, yes, whether they self-report or not. When we have people that go to renew and call us and tell us that they don't have the CE, most of them, I feel like we help give them answers to get their CE before December 31st. So, but we do have some people that will go ahead and tell us after December 31st, they are missing their CE, and we basically put them on the front of the list to send them the non-disciplinary offer. Now, the board has discussed before that, that's been the approach if you're short on CE. The board has discussed if you lie about it or are mistaken when you check the box or whatever people try to tell us, adding a different penalty structure to that, because it's not just you didn't get it and realize it when you were renewing, it's you gave us information that wasn't correct. I mean, most of what we have in our audit are people that said they had it, and
It's pretty much everybody because it's renewals that
You have to check the
you have
box.
to check the box when
Yeah.
you renew.
we have 20 or so left. We may be down a few.
24, 25?
Of 24, 25 that we have been unable to reach an agreement on any type of non-disciplinary agreement. I know we have at least one who has requested a hearing before the board for their CE shortage. My plan, as we have discussed it, which is what we did 2 years ago, is we will book them all for a specific time at the meeting and bring them in and probably take a break and explain to them what is about to happen, because the board has been nothing but consistent on this issue. It's every time I've seen this for 20 years, it's either this happens or if you come to the table, we had a couple of them take us up on it last year. It's when you have this hearing and the board makes a decision, it goes from being a non-disciplinary agreement to make up CE to a disciplinary procedure with the board. And I think we'll still have a couple people take us up. I don't know what is going on. We have tried email, mail, we've called people. I mean,
I'm sending the last round of emails. And I've actually sent 4 or 5 this week that people have responded. So I've got 24 left. There are some that have never responded at all
to anything.
to anything. And I've mailed consent agreements, I've sent emails, I've sent order notice of hearings, and I've received no response.
Are most of these in-state or out-of-state?
There's some of both,
Some of both.
but it's probably
I would say
2/3 out.
primarily out of state. But there are some in state.
She showed me the list last week and I'm like, okay, well, there's one, it's like, we know this person is practicing in Arkansas. So I went back and tried to call them. We didn't have any current phone numbers for them. Called the pharmacy, got a number for them, left them a message. Didn't hear back, but the next day it came in the mail. So they had apparently sent it right before we were trying to call them. But we've gone from 500
487 or so, yeah.
down to 20 something that we've just can't get to respond.
But it's a very time consuming process.
Yeah.
Yes.
We've had some that have tried to argue that, well, that's the first time I've been licensed here. Why should I have to get CE? And we're like, well, it's in trying to have the conversation of, it's not required to get CE to renew. It's required to get CE while you are licensed in the biennium. It doesn't say in order to renew, it's while you are practicing or have the authority to. So it's been, it's an ongoing saga that we tell everyone who reciprocates, we tell the students at the colleges, like, you have to get your CE. We do 100% audit on it. We do have a non-disciplinary procedure, but you're going to have to make up double what you missed before you start for the next one. I don't know how to make it any clearer.
I guess my thought process was more like there's not a way to, with the way that we renewed, there's no opportunity for you to say after the fact, like, oh, I realized I didn't get it because you're renewing before it expires, right?
We have had a couple people claim that, and we have had people that say, well, I went to CE, I guess I never got credit for it. And we have gone to great extent to help people with that CE. But you know, whether I teach or when I was at the college doing lectures, it's trying to tell them, you know, there's an app for that. I mean, there's quite literally an app for that for anyone with a smartphone, or you can log in from your computer and it will tell you whether you're short or not. And I had people even last week upset they haven't gotten their credit for Drug Summit yet. And I'm like, well, they have 60 days to load it. Mine hasn't been loaded either. I know that the provider is working on that, hoping to get it done the next couple weeks, but I tell you, they have 2 months to get it in. But if you're looking in CPE Monitor and there's CE that you didn't get, most of the time, either you did not give them correct information so they could load it in the system, or we get a lot of them that, you know, you have to do a Survey Monkey or something like that, and they just never do it. But when we've had people that it was not in CPE Monitor, but the provider gave them a paper form showing they got the CE, which is not the way that is supposed to work for providers. Like, you're not supposed to be giving out paper forms if you're not loading it into CPE Monitor, but we take that information and we give them
Clearly states on there that it's not.
a proof of CE form.
Well, and the problem is, you know, you talk about if we did something, if they self-reported before they got it, but if you look at the number of pharmacists we have that get their CE, do what they're supposed to do. And I know it's fairs where you get cotton candy and all that, but then you have 500 out of this large number that choose not to do it.
Yeah.
Because there's plenty out there. So kind of have to weigh that as, you know, should you really let them call you and say, oh, I just didn't have time to get it, or I thought I had it and I don't have it, when this other majority group has done what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, I think from talking to some other states, I think their timelines are different. So they may require CE from the previous year, but they don't renew until a birthday or something like that. And so then their self-reporting is a little bit different because somebody may have accidentally, you know, there's a time lapse there. And so if they self-report, there's some different options because it was a timing issue, whereas ours, that doesn't seem to be an issue because you're renewing before the CE period's up normally. So
Yeah.
And a lot of the out-of-state that don't get their CE for us,
Don't have it for their home
they don't
state.
have it for their home state, and then they come in here and they don't show up, and so their license gets revoked, then we report that. So then in about 90 days, they start calling and saying, hey, I need to figure out how to fix this because now it's affecting my other licenses, and it normally always does.
I mean, I can pull the list and show it to you. It's pretty consistent throughout the country as far as CE requirements being somewhere in the realm of either 15 hours per year or 30 per biennium. You know, we are unusual in that we require 12 of the hours to be ACP accredited because we do allow people to get like medical AMA, PRA category 1 hours. It is more and more common though that if they're pharmacists at those meetings, it's got multiple accreditations, which would include pharmacists. So we see much less of that, but most states, it's just a straight ACP requirement, or they'll have some minutia such as a law course or a HIV course or a this or a that or something else. There is variability in the time period. And the trouble I know for having some friends with licenses in multiple states, some of them are the opposite of our year. Some of them are fiscal year versus calendar year, and some of them are on your birthday, which we've talked about that before here. It is a difficult 3 months when we go through all of our renewals, but I'm also, for me at least, really glad that we're not in this rambling, constant renewal period throughout the entire year, because it would make it very difficult to change anything in our system or do an update if you always have renewals going.
what percentage now do you see that are just completely ACP and it's an easy?
Through CP Monitor, we had,
The majority are through CPE Monitor, I would say.
I mean, we had like, was it 85% met all the requirements right off the bat just through a CPE Monitor report? No, I mean, it is the vast majority that if we pull the initial audit numbers just through CPE Monitor, which would show us 30 hours of ACPE with 12 of it being live, the majority of people met it right off the bat with that. And there's a ton of people that I think I think almost everything I did that I claimed was live. Like I do a lot of other CE, but I don't even need it. So it'd be interesting to see the statistics of what percentage of ours were live versus home study or anything else.
How are renewals going with technician?
New system, I mean, we, quite honestly, we have a couple of hiccups, and it is largely because we sent some very detailed instructions for renewals. We sent it to the email on record for the technicians. We've had some people say, no one sent us anything on renewals, and it's, well, are you checking your email? Because that's where all the instructions go. With the new system, and we all have to do it as pharmacists as well. I actually did it with Lena last week to make sure that I understood it and that it was, I figure if I can do it, it might be idiot proof, because it worked. But you have to make sure that you have a profile in the system. And so when you go in, you give your specific like demographic details and your email. Well, if you try to use a different email than is on file with us, it'll say search. And what it's doing is it's searching to attach you to your file on the board. And if it says not found, it means that you've put in something that is not as what on file with the board. And it could be, well, I go by this name, but I haven't changed my name with the Board of Pharmacy because I haven't sent a marriage certificate or a change of name or a divorce decree or whatever else. And so then you have two choices, and what you're supposed to do is cancel and figure out what is wrong and fix it. But if you instead say just build a new profile, it builds a separate profile that's not attached to what we have. So it's, hey, I can't remember my login for this website, so I should make another one. Well, it doesn't show all your past purchases because it's not linked to that one. So whenever that happens, it is a manual process where our staff has to pull the two together and say, this is the new one for that, and manually send your email link or button for you to then proceed. So you'll hear our phones will ring all day for people who just build new profiles instead of doing the process it's supposed to be. And if you don't have an email on file, which is very, very rare, then it is a little bit more of a manual process because they have to give an initial email, I think, to map it to it. There's a couple other hiccups with the new system. It's one of those like we know it's going to be really good, but we just got to get over the hump with it first. All the updates are done. We've got a couple of tasks that we're trying to fix, a couple little quirky things.
We have any cases pending in the circuit court?
We have one.
Still the same.
Nope. We got our decision on one, which that's up to Ashley whenever we discuss that. But we have the board denied an application for someone who had been convicted of murder that you would probably recall from a previous, and they have appealed that decision to circuit court.
That is due this week, so just early in the process for that one.
Okay, it may be months before we see anything on it.
Next year.
Nobody else showed up?
Like I was talking.
Yeah.
You have no shows.
And nobody showed up.
People show up. I'm the same way sometimes.
Well, and it's kind of funny because they call us and call us and call us.
Yeah.
We get them scheduled and then they don't show up.
Yeah, if they don't request, we don't schedule it. I'm pretty sure at least one will show up at 10. What else?
I mean, can you share which case it was that was settled?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can go pull the.
Yeah, we can pull it and give
Let me
you
go to
a
it.
copy of the opinion. Opinion's public, but we got one remanded back to the board. You want to take a break until 10? Or until that next one shows up? I guess whenever the next one shows up, we'll come back in.
So is there anything else that we need to do regarding the tech intern ratio or?
No, it's sitting at, I've submitted an 88. Morning, Ms. Cowser, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing well. I'm John Kirtley. I'm the Director of the Board of Pharmacy. We've met previously via phone. I'm going to tell you a little bit about who you're speaking with this morning and a couple things about this procedure. On this side of the table, we are staff members here at the Board of Pharmacy. Myself, Dr. Brenda McCready, who is our Assistant Director, Ms. Ashley Bales, who is our Legal Counsel. On the other side of the table, we have 4 of our Pharmacy Board members who are decision makers here today on your application. We have Dr. Clint Boone, Dr. Brian Jolly, Dr. Rodney Richmond, who's our current president of the board, and Dr. Lenora Newsom, who's the chairperson of this informal committee. We're here today in part because you had an application for a pharmacy technician registration. On that application, you told us that nothing would come back in any background checks or anything else for that matter. We did find something we'll get to in just a moment, but that is the reason that staff is unable to approve your application as we discussed previously. In a moment, I'll turn it over to Ms. Bales. She'll give a brief overview of whatever was found on your application. And then at that point, the board members will want to have a discussion with you about your application. And at some point, we'll have a suggestion for some action, whether that be to approve your application, deny your application, table it for consideration at a later date, or something else along those lines. Most importantly, whatever they suggest as action, since this is an informal conference, you can either agree or disagree with. Doesn't mean you have to do it right now sitting at that table, but overall you can. If you agree with that action, we proceed with whatever the board members ask us to do as staff. If you disagree, you have a chance to either say, kind of forget this whole thing and walk away, or to request a formal hearing before the board at a future date. The full board in a formal hearing is all 8 board members, a hearing officer, a court reporter. We swear everyone in as witnesses, and it looks much more like actually going to court. So always ask a couple things. Do you understand why you're here today? Do you have any questions about how this process works? Okay, if you have any questions during this, realizing that you've never been before the Board of Pharmacy, I know you've had some questions for some other people, by all means ask us and we'll try to help answer any questions that you have. Ms. Bales?
Yes, we brought Ms. Kelzer in for informal hearing today. She didn't disclose any arrests on her application, but something did come back, an incident where she was arrested on October 30th, 2018. She was charged with criminal mischief in the 1st degree, a Class D felony. Also a harassing communication charge, I believe was a misdemeanor. According to her statement that you have on your tablet, she smashed the car window of a woman. She appeared in court on that felony and misdemeanor charge in May of 2019. The judge passed the case until December 12th of 2019. And when she went to court, then it was dismissed.
Good morning, how are you doing?
Good morning, how are you?
All right, you want to give us a synopsis of what happened on that day?
It was just an incident with a situation I had with a relationship with a guy. And I just had I just let my emotion get the best of me. And I just acted out of anger. And I do apologize. I just had personal issues going on, health issues, just a lot of issues going on within myself. So, that's about it.
Okay, so what have you been doing since then?
I had got my high school diploma. I went to the pharmacy tech class and I got certified as a pharmacy tech. I did the class and I did the test and passed. And I just been working on myself.
So what type of work are you currently doing?
Walmart. I work as a cashier,
Which location?
Jacksonville.
I had a couple of questions if I could.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Ms. Kelzer, I'm looking at your criminal records that you presented. When you went to court on that criminal mischief, did you have to pay back the damage to the woman's car?
No, I just had community service, or they just gave me like a month to not get in trouble.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't get any trouble and they just dismissed it.
But you didn't have to pay back the damage to her car?
No.
And what was the reason for the harassing communications? What was the allegation there that they said you did?
But I'm confused.
So on your dismissal paperwork, it's got two charges.
Okay.
It's got one, the criminal mischief in the first degree, which you you wrote your statement about. And the other one is a harassing communication. And you didn't really provide any information in your statement about that charge. So that's what I was asking. What was the basis?
The harassment communication?
Uh-huh.
It really wasn't anything. He just basically I was texting him and calling. It was a relationship that I was in. It was a guy.
Okay. And the guy is different. That's a different situation than the woman who
It's
got
the
her.
same person. I don't know where the woman came in. It's a guy.
Oh, okay. The car belonged to a man and not a woman.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. That's all the question I had.
I just have one question. Well, why did you not report it on the application?
I totally forgot. It's been an old case. I always put no on my applications because I never had a situation. So it was just something I totally forgot about.
What year did this happen?
Uh,
2018?
mhm.
And then
Because I'm-
then you went to court May of 19.
Yes.
And then in December, they held it for 6 months. That's what it looked like. Because it was a felony, they usually hold it longer than one.
You have to pay any fine?
No, I just paid court fees and my lawyer, that's it. But I didn't have to do anything else. I just had to stay out of trouble for 6 months and they just dismissed it after that.
You're very fortunate. It could have been a lot worse.
Yes, ma'am.
We've explained to Ms. Cowser a few times that staff is unable to process an application with felony charges on it that the applicant did not disclose. I know she's been frustrated with that and has reported that to some other people that she wasn't being told what happened with her application, but we've tried to explain it to her verbally several times.
Does any other board members have any questions? for this candidate?
Said you forgot. Said that you forgot, but when you went through the application, there's a question here that says, have you ever been cited, arrested for, charged with, or convicted of including a nolo contendere? I mean, there's a specific question there for that. So how do you forget to
Because
answer that correctly?
it's been 6 years almost. And I've been filling out, went through multiple jobs and applications and I put no. So it never slipped my mind to think about something that happened 6 years ago.
It says, have you ever, and that's why I wondered, have you ever had any evers like?
Yes, ma'am, I understand.
Did they arrest you and like take you in and fingerprint you and process you?
Yes, they did.
All right. So you had when they took you in, did you have to appear before a judge to get released initially and then come back to court later?
Yes, sir.
So the time and the nature of the charge, I guess I'm okay with, but I would, whatever the board's action is, I encourage you, something like that would seem to be significant. If it happened to me, I don't think I would not remember that. Certainly, if something happened, whether it was disposed of maybe even 5 years ago, not even 5 years ago yet. So pharmacy is a very detail-oriented profession, and the proof is in the details. And so it's important that you pay attention.
Dr. Boone,
Have you removed yourself from this relationship? Is it an ongoing thing or?
No, I'm in a totally different relationship.
Dr. Jones, any comment?
Nothing additional.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
Okay. We have, 2 yeas and 1 nay, if we can mark that on the record.
Okay.
The motion passes.
That is if you agree with it.
Are you ready to go to work as a technician?
I am.
You know, it's a lot of hard work. It's not a glamorous job.
I'm ready. I've been preparing myself for it.
All right, thank you for coming in.
Hope everything goes well for you.
Thank you guys. Have a blessed day.
Thank
You
you.
too.
And most of the people we've had scheduled for today have been like turning us up, wanting to get here, so.
Good morning.
Oh, good morning.
We already saw Miss Parker. I thought. That was Miss Luster earlier, I'm sorry.
Same first name. Okay.
No, I'm sorry.
This-
This is just like-
I was about to say, we saw Miss Parker because I looked at the picture. Yeah. We gotta rewind the whole day.
No, it's just me. This is Miss Luster.
There we go. Number one on your list. Miss Luster, how are you doing this morning?
I was a tad bit nervous and now maybe a tad bit more nervous.
I understand. I'm gonna tell you a little bit about this procedure and who you're talking to, which should maybe, I don't know, may not make you any less nervous, but at least we'll know what's going on. I'm John Kirtley. I'm the Director of the Board of Pharmacy, and on this side of the table, we have 3 of our staff members, myself, Dr. Brenda McCready, who's our Assistant Director, and Ms. Ashley Bales, who is our legal counsel here at the board. On the other side, we have 4 of our pharmacy board members that are decision makers here today to see if they come to a decision on your application. We have Dr. Clint Boone on the end, Dr. Brian Jolly, Dr. Rodney Richmond, who's the president of our board, and Dr. Lenore Newsom, who's the chair of this committee.
Okay.
We have an application for you to be a pharmacy technician in the state of Arkansas. On that application, you told us that nothing would come back, but some stuff was found. I know it's a little bit dated, but it popped up. In this procedure, what we'll do is I'll turn it over to Ms. Bales, and Ms. Bales will give an overview of what we found in your application, and the board members generally are going to want to talk to you about that situation in your application and why you didn't tell us about it. When they do that, at some point, they're going to come up with a suggestion for what they want to do. It could be to say to approve this application, to deny this application, to table this decision till another time, or whatever it is. No matter what their decision is, you can either agree or disagree with it. It doesn't mean you have to right now sitting in that chair. But if you agree with it, we go forth with whatever the board members ask us to do. If you disagree, then it's something where you can either say, forget this and walk away, or request a formal hearing before the board at a future date. Formal hearing, we call this informal because even though I realize it's formal to come before a board like this, it's informal because in a full hearing, we'd have all 8 members, a hearing officer, a court reporter. We swear everybody in as witnesses, and it looks a lot more formal, like going to court than this. So I always ask, do you know why you're here today?
Yeah.
Do you have any questions about how this works?
No, I think It's kind of self-explanatory on why I'm here.
Realizing you've never sat in that chair, if at some point you are confused about something or you need to ask a question about what's going on, by all means, get our attention, ask that. We do this all the time. We'd be happy to help answer any questions that you have.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Okay, we'll turn it over to Ms. Bales.
Good morning. We brought Miss Lester in for the informal committee today. And she didn't disclose any arrests would come up on her background check, but there were two that did. The older one is from December 26, 1999, where she was arrested and charged with 2 counts of theft of property misdemeanors. She was sentenced to a year probation, complied with the terms, and then the case was sealed on February 8, 2001. Then in July 23rd, 2007, she failed to appear in court on some traffic offenses, which were no insurance and driving without insurance from Adams County, Colorado. The failure to appear warrant was recalled. She took care of it, and then the cases were dismissed after she paid the fines in full. But again, she didn't disclose the arrests, so we brought her in front of the committee today.
You want to tell us a little bit about your arrest?
Do I need them? Can y'all hear me? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The one with Walmart, I was just being young and dumb, knew somebody, thought I can get by. And when I realized that was not the case, I was like, that is not for me. I paid my probation and never got in trouble with that lifestyle, cut off communications with that person and moved to a whole new area. And I was just like, that's not for me. Changed my whole career life path and been in the medical field ever since. The one with the traffic, I was in town visiting in Little Rock. On my way back to Colorado, thinking my court date was, I'm gonna say example, Tuesday, so I was traveling back on Monday. Well, in actuality, my court date was on Monday. And when I got pulled over, they said I had a failure to appear. And I was like, but what? My court is tomorrow. They were like, no, ma'am, your court was today. So it was just a slip of the confusions of the date. And that was my first time. I didn't even know I had a warrant out for my arrest because like I said, I thought my court was the following day. And so when it came to that, that just completely slipped my mind. I just thought about the speeding ticket and therefore have not gotten any more since then either.
Okay. Now, you said you had made a turn and that you were in the medical field. What have you been doing in the medical field?
I have been a medical assistant. I was in Colorado, of course. I was a medical assistant for internal and family practice. And then I became a access coordinator or care coordinator. So I worked the back office and the manager worked the front office. So I was lead over 5 medical assistants. When the office manager was out, I took all the deposits to the bank for 2 different clinics and things of that sort. When they needed help, I throw on my jacket because I wore 6-inch heels to work every day. So whenever they needed help on the floor, I had my scrubs in the room and changed down and got on the floor and handled business. And moving back to Little Rock, my grandfather had begged me to move back to Little Rock before his passing. And I had got the call on a Sunday that he had passed, and I was still already in process of moving, so I was not gonna let that stop me from moving back home. Came home, started working with Qual Choice. I already had a job here, so worked with Qual Choice for 4 years till they got bought out by Centene. Then been at UAMS since 2020 and done had 4 promotions, and now I'm supervisor of 23 clinics and work part-time at Walgreens.
Okay, so why the change from what you've been doing to becoming a pharmacy technician?
It's always something I wanted to do, just being in anything in the medical and health profession. And then my manager said, hey, would you mind? I was like, no, I would love to. You know, I think I'm always putting things under your belt. You never know when you need to use them and make yourself more valuable to the company than not valuable. And that's what I have shown at Walgreens. On days off, they can call me and say, hey, Angie, can you come in? I'm like, maybe not at 5, but I can get there at 6. Let me finish doing some stuff. But yeah.
So are you the one, at the Walgreens right by the hospital, by UAMS, or a different one?
The Chanel in
Well,
Bowie.
that's quite a drive before you.
Well, I live out that way now.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
Yeah, I've been out there over a year. Yeah.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the application.
Have a motion and second by Dr. Jolly and Dr. Boone. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes.
Thank you. Oh my God, I'm so thankful.
So are you gonna stop the hospital thing, or you gonna use
Oh, no.
technician as a side hustle? Is that the word they use there? Yeah.
I have 2 kids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Even though they grown, they don't stay in my pocket.
I just asked.
Hey, we have an outpatient pharmacy at UMS too, but I know it's probably during the same hours that you're working your other jobs.
Good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
It's not the windshield, it literally was put in yesterday.
Always disappointed.
All of those smashed. There's a lot of the center. Yes. Yeah. Mr. Constantino, how are you doing this morning?
I'm pretty good.
Good.
Almost got lost.
I'm John Kirtley. I'm the Director of the Board of Pharmacy. I'm going to tell you a little bit about who you're speaking with and how this procedure goes as we get started. On this side of the table, we are staff members here that work here in the board offices. Myself, Dr. Brenda McCready is our Assistant Director. Ms. Ashley Bell is our legal counsel. On the other side of the table, we have 4 of our pharmacy board members who are decision makers here today. I have Dr. Clint Boone on the end, Dr. Brian Jolly, Dr. Rodney Richmond, who's our current board president, and Dr. Lenora Newsom, who is the chair of this informal committee. On this, we have your application to be a pharmacy technician. On that application, you told us that nothing would come back, but then we did find something on the background, which the board members are going to want to talk to you about. Just a second, I'll turn it over to Ms. Bales to give an overview of your application and anything we found. And then when the board members talk to you, at some point, they're going to come up with a suggestion for action, either to possibly approve your application, deny your application, decide to table it and consider it at a future time point, or something else. We don't know until they tell us what their decision is. With that, you can either agree or disagree with that decision. If you agree with it, we go forth with whatever the board members have asked us to do. If you disagree, you kind of have 2 choices. One is to say, forget this and walk away from being a technician. The other would be to request a hearing before the full board at a later date. The full board we call a formal meeting because all 8 board members, a hearing officer, a court reporter, we swear everybody in as witnesses, and it just is a more formal procedure, much like going to court.
Okay.
So I always ask 2 questions. Do you know why you're here today?
Yes, sir.
Any questions you have about how this works?
Not really. It's the first time, so.
Sure. And, you know, on that point of it being your first time to be in front of the board, if at any point you need to ask us a question about what's going on, please just, you know, stop us, get our attention, ask any questions you have. We want to help answer any questions that you have.
Okay.
Okay. With that, I will turn it over to staff.
We brought Mr. Constantino in for informal hearing today. He did not disclose any arrests or anything that would come up on his background check. There was an arrest that came up on October 6, 2014. He was arrested and charged with possession of controlled substance, a Class A misdemeanor, possession of instrument of crime, Class A misdemeanor, expired driver's license, and expired vehicle tags. According to his statement, he was driving on an expired driver's license when he was pulled over, and the officer asked to inspect his car and found cannabis. He pleaded guilty or was found guilty of possession of controlled substance, expired driver's license, and expired vehicle tags. The instrument of the crime charge was null prost. He was sentenced to pay fines and court costs, and his driver's license was suspended for 6 months. He's complied with the court orders, and according to his statements, he's now found safer and legal ways to handle his rest and relaxation. But we brought him in because of the lack of disclosure on his application.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, ma'am. How are you?
Good. You want to tell us in your own words what happened here?
Oh, on that day that I got
Yes,
pulled
sir.
over,
Yes,
I was driving my friend to Conway, and I was driving and I got pulled over, and my driver's license was expired, and so are my tags. And when the officer that pulled me over looked around the vehicle and stuff, just saw a bunch of stuff in the back of the car, the passenger. It was my friend's stuff. He went ahead and asked for a search. I said, go ahead. And he found my smoking paraphernalia and some cannabis at the time. And I went ahead and spent a night in jail until I got bonded out, and proceeded to comply with whatever the court asked me to do, which was pay the court fines, and with my driver's license, I had to have a limited driving basically to and from work, and that's it. That's all I was able to do.
You still smoke?
No, ma'am. I just drink now.
You went from one to the other?
Say again?
So you just drink now?
Yes,
How
ma'am.
much are you drinking?
Like at most one drink a day. Just to
Okay.
calm me down and go to sleep, because my schedule now is work at 4 a.m, 4 to 1, but I do have to get up at every 2 o'clock for my cat's insulin. So I don't necessarily sleep early enough. That's enough to push me over the edge of being getting sleepy. But that's it.
What type of work are you doing currently?
Right now, I work at the deli side of Walmart. I handle their freight, which is the stuff that goes on the wall and stuff. I put it up. And then whenever I'm done with all that stuff, I proceed to go inside the deli, which is cook the food and maybe cut some meat if need be. But right now, I moved over to the bakery side. So now I bake their freight. I still do my deli duties on some days. And then on a couple of days, I do the bakery side, which bake their bread and donuts. And then on some other days, I do the bakery freight. 2 days of baking, 2 days of handle bakery freight, and 1 day of just the deli stuff.
So how did you become acquainted with pharmacy?
Well, it was one of my old coworkers decided to go to pharmacy, but it's in a different state. But I used to be in the military as a corpsman, and I just wanted to get away from the medical side for a while, just do something different. And so I've been doing food ever since, and I'm kind of getting burned out with the food, so I thought I'd try something different. And there was opening at the time, but not anymore. They seem to close up pretty good, pretty fast. But they keep telling me that they're short staffed because they're pulling people from other stores and stuff. So
You had mentioned related to the arrest in 2014, which I realized was 10 years ago, but that you were arrested and booked and had to spend the night in jail.
yes, sir.
Okay. So why did you mark no on the application when the question asked you whether you had ever been charged, arrested, or convicted?
To me, it was I was thinking of it as a crime, like a serious related crime. I didn't think of just any crime in particular, whether it be this misdemeanor or anything minor. I thought it had to be a serious, really serious offense.
I believe the application gives you some guidance there. In fact, it says other than minor traffic violations on the application. So, I realize this was a misdemeanor, but it also involved a controlled substance. And it's certainly not a traffic violation.
Yes, sir. Really know what I was thinking at the time. Like I said, I thought it had to be a serious crime,
Okay.
crime of violence, or a felony, battery. So that would probably be, should have asked questions instead of assuming.
Okay, thanks.
Pharmacy revolves around drug therapy, but sometimes drugs get used in an improper way.
Correct.
Certainly there's abuse of drugs that can be used recreationally. And so would you consider that to be of big concern?
For me?
No, just in general.
No, sir.
So you wouldn't consider drug abuse to be a problem?
To be my problem? No, sir.
I didn't ask about you. I asked in general. I'm saying that in the scope of public concern, because pharmacy serves the public.
Correct.
So in your opinion, is drug abuse not a problem?
I mean, it is a problem,
Okay,
a major problem,
okay.
matter of fact.
And,
A lot of people take it without even needing it.
okay, now do you have a medical marijuana card?
No, sir.
Okay, so you were using marijuana illicitly because in 2014 and still today, it's a Schedule I drug that is a controlled substance. So you were abusing a controlled substance.
Yes,
You
sir.
don't consider that to be a problem.
No, sir.
So you consider other drug abuse problems to be a problem in general, but personally, because it relates to you, you don't see cannabis abuse of a controlled substance being a problem.
At the time, there was no card yet, I don't think.
Okay, so you had a controlled substance in your vehicle.
Yes, sir.
Were you driving under the influence?
I don't believe so, no, sir.
When's the last time you used marijuana?
The day before I got arrested.
So 10 years ago? Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 2014.
Yes, sir. Well, yes.
When did you get out of the military?
2013 was the official date from inactive reserve. But the last time I seen him was post-deployment back in 08.
What would have happened when you were active if this would have happened then?
I wouldn't have because I was active.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess I asked that because you know there would have been significant consequences with the military if this would have happened while you were active.
correct. Yes, sir. I wouldn't have done it if I was active duty
Yeah.
because I would have been
Tied up bad.
correct.
And it's the same thing with alcohol, especially if you're deployed. Where are you deployed to?
Just Iraq one tour.
Yeah. It's pretty dry over there.
Yes, sir. Extremely.
So do you realize that pharmacy is a highly regulated profession
Yes, ma'am.
and you really don't need to be doing anything illicit?
No, ma'am. Is alcohol considered illicit?
I don't think it gets out of control. You have to come to work in your right mind every day. You can't
Yes, ma'am.
come in to work drunk.
No, I understand that. I'm sober every day I come to work, so.
Dr. Jolly, Dr. Boone, any questions?
Nothing further. Considering the length of time, I would be willing to make a motion to approve. Or I am making a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Dr. Jolly and a second by Dr. Boone. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
No.
Okay, we have, 2 yeses, 1 no. The motion passes.
We'll note that in our, not minutes, but our records from the meeting as well.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Means we approved your permit.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we can go back and review the video. I think I talked about the spray space and hospital. I was like, and that's why I said.
Good morning.
Morning.
Now you sit on that side, Jenny, or she's gonna bring you a microphone in case you need it.
Okay.
Who got Ashley? Miss Ham is under tab. I pass area, tab 7. Good morning, Miss Ham. How are you
Hi,
doing?
good, how are you?
Doing well. And who do you have with you?
This is my pharmacy in charge, Jenny.
All right, Jenny, good to see you.
Good to see you guys.
Ms. Ham, I'm John Kirtley. I'm the Director of the Board of Pharmacy, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about who you're speaking with this morning and a couple
Okay.
things about this procedure to kick us off.
Okay.
On this side of the table, we are all staff members here at the board. Myself, Dr. Brenda McCready is our Assistant Director. Miss Ashley Vales is our Legal Counsel. On the other side of the board, I have 4 of my pharmacy board members who are decision makers on your application today. On them, we have Dr. Clint Boone, we have Dr. Brian Jolly, Dr. Rodney Richmond, who is the president of the board currently, and Dr. Lenore Newsom, who chairs this informal committee for us. In this process, you had submitted an application to be a pharmacy technician in Arkansas, and you let us know that something would probably come back. So thank you for disclosing that up front. And with that, in a moment, I'll turn over to Ms. Vale. She'll give us an overview of what was found in your application, and the board members are going to want to talk to you about that background issue, and at some point, they'll come up with a decision.
Okay.
What they would suggest to do with your application. They could suggest to approve your application, to deny your application. They could say they would table it and reconsider at a future date, or they would consider under some other circumstance. Whatever they decide, you can either agree or disagree with. If you agree with it, we do exactly whatever the board members ask us to do as staff. If you disagree, it splits where you have 2 choices. Number 1 is to say, forget this and walk away from pharmacy. The other one is to request a formal hearing before the board at a future date, which is the full board. And when I say formal, realizing this is fairly formal, a formal hearing has all 8 board members, a hearing officer at the table, a court reporter. We swear everybody in as witnesses, and is much more like going to court as an official procedure. So I always ask, do you know why you're here today? What questions do you have about how this works?
As this moment, I do not have any questions.
That's a great way to put it. If you change your mind on that and you have a question about how something is going or some procedural issue, by all means, wave your hands, raise your hand, get our attention, and we'll want to try to help answer any questions that you have, realizing we do all this all the time and you've never been here.
Okay.
Okay. Over to Ms. Bales.
As Dr. Kirtley said, Ms. Ham did disclose an arrest on her application. The arrest was from February 28, 2005. She was charged with possession of drug paraphernalia. She pled guilty to the charge and was sentenced to fines and court costs. And there's not a lot of details about what happened at the time of her arrest in her statement, so we may need to ask her about that. But she has complied with all of those court orders and paid everything in full.
You want to tell us what happened?
Well, what happened that night was we were coming back from a date night, me and my ex, and we got pulled over. And the sheriff, it was the sheriff, or I'm not sure it was police department, I think it was the sheriff. He asked us if we want to search the car. I knew my date had weed in the car. And he's like, well, I have some other stuff too, but you're just, they're not actual drugs. They were just bags of paraphernalia. And he's like, just take this one for me so I can take this one. That way it wouldn't be so bad on my record. So I was in love, young. So I did, I took it, and there was no actual drugs in there. It was just empty bags. And I didn't get arrested. He gave me a ticket, and that was the end of the night. And then I went to court. They gave me a paper, the science papers, and I had to pay the fine, which I thought I had paid it because I did send a money order in. About 2 months later after that happened, it was my fault that I didn't confirm that they got the payment. But we did after that, a little after that, we did move. So I never got another notice saying that it was still owed, that they never received it. So I just assumed, which was irresponsible of me to assume that I had paid it already. So here we are.
But you haven't had any problems? since?
No,
Okay.
no. I mean, that was 20 years ago.
That was in California too, correct?
I just moved here not too long ago.
Okay, and what are you doing career-wise now?
Right now, I'm at the pharmacy. I'm also working at Target as well.
What are you doing in the pharmacy? Cashier or?
Yes, doing cashier, helping, whatever everybody else needs, kind of like just being an assistant.
We have a large square footage on our front end and she helps a lot with the retail items.
Which pharmacy is it?
The pharmacy at Wellington.
Oh, okay.
You say there were no drugs found?
No,
Just the paraphernalia?
paraphernalia, that was it.
Did the
There was no actual drugs in there.
The paraphernalia, did it belong to you or not?
It was not mine, but I did take the fall for it. It was my boyfriend at the time.
Paraphernalia related to the use of marijuana?
Yes, that and methamphetamine.
I mean, based on honesty on the application, the length of time this has been, I'd make a motion that we approve our application if there's no other discussion from other board members or questions.
Okay, we have a motion by Dr. Jolly, second by Dr. Richmond. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Any nays? The motion passes by unanimous vote.
If you agree with him.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Sure you don't want to come back?
No, I don't ever want to do this again.
Good luck.
If you weren't with your pharmacist in charge, I'd tell you, since it took you till almost past lunch, you'd have to stop for lunch on the way back, but she's here with you.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
You're at a fantastic place.
Thank you.
Yes, she's doing a great job. I was fully ready to let y'all know how good of a job she's doing.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for coming with her, Judy.
Of course.
Supposed to be getting cold today, don't it? Yeah, still in the 50s.
But it's humid.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And is it good or good?
Good. Either way.
It depends on which set of relatives you're probably talking about at the moment, from my experience with that name. So I'm John Kirtley. I'm the director of the Board of Pharmacy. Who'd you bring with you today?
This is my husband, Wayne Good.
Okay. In this process, I'm going to tell you kind of who you're speaking with and just a couple things about this procedure before we open up for our discussion. On this side of the table, we are staff members here at the board offices. Myself, Dr. Brenda McCready is our assistant director, and Ms. Ashley Vales is our legal counsel. On the other side, we have 4 of our pharmacy board members that are decision makers here today on your application. Dr. Clint Boone on the end, Dr. Brian Jolly, Dr. Rodney Richmond, who's our current president of the board, and Dr. Lenore Newsom, who is the chairperson for our informal committee. In this process, we see that you did fill out an application and that I have to, as soon as it will load it, you told us that nothing would come back on any background checks or anything, but we did find something, which is part of why we're here today. In a few moments, I'll let Ms. Bales give an overview of what was found in the application process, and the board members will want to have a discussion with you about that. At some point, they're going to have a suggestion for what they would like to do with your application. They could suggest to approve your application, to deny your application, to table it for reconsideration at some future point, or ask us for something else. We don't know till they get there. Most importantly, whatever their decision is, you can either agree with it or disagree with it. If you agree with it, we do whatever the board has asked us to do. If you disagree, it's kind of your chance to either say, well, forget pharmacy, I'm not going to do this anymore, or I'm not going to pursue it, or to ask for a formal hearing before the full board at a later date. We call this informal because it's much less formal than a full hearing. Full hearing is all 8 board members, not 4 of them. A hearing officer, a court reporter. We swear everybody in as witnesses, and is much more like going to court for a court hearing at that point. So always ask, do you know why you're here today?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Any questions you have about how this works?
No.
Okay, if that changes at any point, if you want to ask us a question to clarify something, by all means, stop us, get our attention, wave your hands, and we'll try to help answer any questions that you have, because I realize you've never sat there and we do this all the time. Okay, Ms. Bales?
We brought Ms. Good in this morning for an arrest. Like, as Dr. Kirtley said, she didn't disclose it on her application, but one did come back, an arrest on February 22nd, 2009. She was arrested by Delano, California Police Department for 1 count of use of force against spouse and 1 count of use of force without a firearm. That's what's listed on the background. There's no court documents that could be obtained by Ms. Good. And according to her statement, an incident occurred at a hotel and the police were called because they were too loud. And after appearing in court, she took an anger management course.
Okay, Ms. Good, you want to tell us what happened in your own words, please?
Yeah, at that time, my husband works out of town. So I haven't seen him for a while. So I kind of surprised him to have a visit and found out that he was drinking, and we had a discussion that turned into a fight and something like
Argument.
argument. And so, yeah, the cop was called upon us, and so they took me because I was not the one that was registered at the hotel. So I was the one that was taken away and did my time there, and went to anger management and finished the course and everything.
And there haven't been any problems since?
No,
Nothing like this? Okay.
we're still together.
We've been happily married for almost 19 years.
We made some changes. There were some changes, and I have to, quit my job and be with him with his traveling work.
That was the best.
And as that was going on, I went to school online to take my pharmacy course.
Can I say something?
Yes, sir.
This was all my fault, because I reacted. I was drinking that night, and the contract, I was doing else. He came in a surprise visit. I got upset because of that, but there was nobody in there or anything like that. So I suffer from a few other things. I don't need to mention that if I don't have to. He tried to calm me down. somebody overreacted downstairs or one of the people maybe on the floor called downstairs, they called the police, and when they come in, you know, since I was registered there, they took her away. But it was my fault. My wife is salt of the earth and, you know, whole professional, excellent person. And my fault, we worked hard. And we're together. There was no more incidents involved.
So you're from Manila?
I actually went to school in Manila, but I was born in Cebu, Philippines.
Currently live in Arkansas.
Yes.
You get your license in Florida or were licensed in Florida as a technician? But that's delinquent. Did you just not choose to renew it?
No, because we're here now in Arkansas.
The incident that we're talking about happened in California.
Yes.
Many years.
And the online program that you took for your technician, that's the one in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
What brings you to the world of wanting to be a pharmacy technician?
When I was at Walmart, I worked at Walmart for 11 years, and I went around the store. I was a cashier at first and became a department manager. And then one time I got interested in working at the pharmacy. So I started as a clerk, a pharmacy clerk, and I saw that, helping people, and I just had the compassion of, learning, the nature of the job, and I got interested and went to school for that.
I'd just say I'd make a motion to approve her license.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Dr. Boone and a second by Dr. Jolly. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Have a unanimous vote. Thank you.
Unless you want to disagree with them.
Sir.
All right. Thank you guys for coming in. We'll get this signed off on and get you processed and on your way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. What to do. That everybody. There's no perfect way to do it.
No, it's not.
Because it
Yeah.
but then they don't show up and it's a. Or. Or evidence that we.
Years. Yeah, it is.
Morning, Mr. Ramirez. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing well. I'm John Kirtley. I'm the Director of the Board of Pharmacy, and I'm going to tell you a couple things kind of about our procedure and who you're speaking with this morning. On this side of the table, we are all staff members here at the board. Myself, Dr. Brenda McCready, who's our Assistant Director, and Ms. Ashley Bales, who's our Legal Counsel. On the other side, we have 4 of our pharmacy board members who are decision makers here today on your application. Dr. Clint Boone, Dr. Brian Jolly, Dr. Rodney Richmond, who's our current board president, and Dr. Lenore Newsom, who's the chairperson of our informal committee. In this process, the board members are just now seeing your application documents. I'm trying to make sure the application is on there. It's in the other file.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the one that says new documents, the very last page has kind of the cover sheet you would usually see. And then there is the other file has his other application background stuff. So we have to do a little bit of jumping back forward. In this process, in a moment, I'll turn it over to Ms. Bales, who give the board members a brief overview of whatever we had found in your application process. And then the board members will want to talk to you about your application and anything that had happened. At some point, they're going to have a suggestion for what they want to do with your application. It could be to approve your application. It could be to deny your application. It could be to say they want to table it and would reconsider it at some future point. They may have some other criteria they come up with, and we don't know what it is until they do that. With that, you could either agree or disagree with whatever suggested action that they make. If you agree, we go forth with whatever they've asked us to do. If you disagree, it's kind of your chance to either say, you know what, forget about pharmacy and walk away from it, or to say, no, I really am interested and I would like a hearing before the full board at a later date, which would be a formal hearing. A formal hearing has all 8 board members, have a hearing officer and a court reporter, and we swear everybody in that's going to basically talk to the board. So it's just a more formal process, much like going to court. So I always ask 2 things. Do you know why you're here today?
Yes.
Do you have any questions about how this works?
No, sir.
If at any point you do have a question about something that's happening procedurally or otherwise, wave your hands, raise your hand, get our attention, and we'll try to help answer any questions that you have.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Ms. Bales?
So committee members, if you'll remember, Mr. Ramirez was here at our last informal in August. He was brought before the committee because he had an arrest in 2015 for possession of marijuana. He was parked in a car and it looked suspicious to the police officers, and they pulled him over and smelled the odor of marijuana. And he had a pipe in his pocket and a bag full of marijuana, less than 2 ounces. In his statement, he said that he had last used in February of 2024. And he had a pending application with Colliers. Is that right, Colliers?
I've been working for them since March.
And they had sent him for some drug testing. Those were provided. And then Mr. Ramirez indicated that he had some more drug tests that he could provide to the board. So the committee decided to table his application until he could produce these tests. Then after the hearing, Mr. Ramirez presented some tests, but they were home tests. And after discussing this with Dr. McCready, we felt that it wasn't apparent at the hearing that those were home tests. We thought they were all through Colliers. So we brought him back here to discuss that, and he has submitted some subsequent drug screens that aren't home tests.
Right.
So just for the record, to be clear, we brought him in here to make sure that we knew exactly what the committee wanted to do, since the information had changed a little bit.
Okay. So have you decided to give up smoking?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. Here's the Prairie Grove store.
I was at the Prairie Grove location. I'm now at the Dixon Street location in Fayetteville.
Oh, that's 2 totally different things in
Yeah.
parts of the world.
Very,
Dixon
very.
is like, say, super busy.
Yes, I prefer the busy, honestly.
You do, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So you're not using marijuana,
Correct.
you're a medical marijuana card.
Correct.
And we've got what we would consider drug tests now, not the
Yeah.
home test.
And I've got those here as well. I've been taking them every month.
Yeah.
They're in your packet.
Perfect. And I have one additional one that I hadn't sent you
Okay.
yet, Miss Ashley.
So I have the ones that you emailed me in their packet, but if you have another one, I can take.
Yeah. I think I gave you up to November, but here's just from August until now.
You haven't had any other, incidences, no traffic violations, either anything? Everything's clean?
I got a speeding ticket. Took my son down to see some family in Texas and got a speeding ticket in Oklahoma. That's,
Okay. Yeah, Oklahoma will get you.
yeah, oh, they got me.
You don't mess with Texas. Lines that they have out there. You have anything else you want to tell us?
No. Since I saw you guys last, I have received full custody of my son. So I'm very hopeful that this will go through. It'll be a much needed, boost for our family and, yeah.
Yeah, see like Northwest Arkansas?
Oh, he does. Yeah, I mean, he'll be 2 in March, actually.
Oh.
So, yeah, he's a
Okay.
little one, but he's finally starting to develop that personality and I'm loving being a part of it.
Hopefully he'll get a chance to see some snow.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yes, ma'am.
What was refresh my memory, August, what did we?
You tabled it and for him to submit drug screens. And when I got the drug screens and realized they were home tests, we felt that he needed to come back in front of the board because it wasn't our impression that he had been taking home tests. We thought they were all through Colliers through his employer and were being reported to his employer. So that's why we brought him back today.
And since then, he's done four
Okay.
that are noted as, not being home tests.
And all of those have been since August.
Mhm.
So I think his last positive one was March.
Yes, there was a couple positive ones that were the at-home tests. The at-home tests they were still through my employer. Like I was just purchasing them off the shelf since I had to buy them, and just submitting the results directly to them. I believe it was by May, it was all out of my system or somewhere around there. So I took another formal one for them just to have it on record. And that's when I came to you guys in August. And since then I've been taking the formal ones since that's what you guys said you needed.
So it sounds like he's complied with our request. We have multiple negative results. No additional discussion. I'm willing to make a motion.
Second.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay. Have a
I'll
motion
second
to approve by Dr. Jolly and a second by Dr. Boone. Do we have any public discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays. Unanimous vote. Good luck.
You guys.
Yeah. We'll give him his paperwork back also.
Thank you.
So you know Dr. Dunn?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, tell him I said hello.
There you go.
He kept popping back to the
Yeah.
button. After this is unusual.
I want like a toggle switch.
Oh, forget all the 11 o'clocks.
I know. I mean, yeah, early. We should not have anything else on the agenda till 1 o'clock. Imagine if anybody shows up early, we could probably pop back in at 12:45 and see if anything's there. That sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, we'll be back 12:45 if anybody's waiting on us.